I'm not ready at all. Don't do that.
Are you serious, or have you already started it?
Oh my god, I haven't. What? I'm not that good at acting, am I?
I don't know. Depends. If you have already started it, then apparently, yeah.
Oh well, no, I haven't.
Then no.
Of course I have. Of course I have.
You did it! You said to like double down 3 times in a row.
Sorry, maybe I shouldn't do that. Should probably be try and be less annoying.
I think we both know that is close to impossible. But that doesn't mean we can't try. Welcome to. Actually, is this series called again? I guess just
Dev Q&A, where we interview Mikkel. We have him chained up in the basement and we shock him for responses. Yeah. We have him hooked up to the electric chair. And when he doesn't give us a response we like, we shock him again.
Yeah, but even then, despite that, his responses are always vague. Even on like bleeding out, he still
he's like, tell us anything, no plans, could happen in the future. Yeah. That's basically how it goes. Basically, what I've done is it's because there was so much in this entry. Because the guy who does it, I guess he sort of just, does it, and it doesn't matter how much. By the time he's done it, it's just everything up to the point when he's chosen to do it. So, what that means is this goes from March up till the most recent streams this May, last week, even though this is the April episode. I'm going to call it the April episode because otherwise it would be, March/April/May. I'm not doing that. But either way, it's pretty confusing in that sense. But either way, it doesn't make sense to necessarily put things on hold. I'm not going to put the May stuff on hold for next time because it could become outdated, and it's also just not. It's just kind of weird to leave it on the table. We basically just do this whenever it gets updated, which makes the naming of these videos kind of weird because it's not. It's starting to become not as accurate anymore, or it's starting to become more confusing if I were accurate. Because, like I said, it would have to be like March/April/May, but I ain't doing that. This is April. It's also extraordinarily condensed. There's still some stuff in here that we've seen before. In fact, it could be a lot of it, but the point is it's just all of the stuff that's actually worth talking about or just looking at and that's how it's going to be from here on out, because I cannot I am also guilty of finding these a bit boring. Because it used to just come down to we would kind of just list everything still and gloss over the stuff that we knew about already, and then focus only a little bit though on the important stuff because there was so much to get through. But what's the point in just listing off a bunch of boring crap when we could just put all the good stuff together and not have to speedrun it necessarily? Because this could still end up being as long as the others, but it means that if it could, there's going to be a bit of listing, but if we feel like talking about something, we don't have to stop ourselves. That's what I mean. And I think we're just going to do it this way from here on out as well. I'll just do this every time, update this document every time. It's going to make it better. This is going to be better than the old ones. Obviously, that means there's some stuff that isn't covered here, like what they're doing with perks, because they don't know other than that they're going to do something. And there's some things that just don't change. I mean, you can see something like Hazard 6 is there, right? And I'm not actually sure why I included that one, to be fair.
Yeah.
But it's still there. I don't know if there's a shooting range one here. I don't know. I can tell you for sure there's no new class, there's no water biome, there's no surface. Actually, there might be no surface biome because things that also make their way in there if the response is worth talking about too. It's definitely, but I mean the response is more important, frankly. So
yeah, it's a boring question. They can still answer it in a weird, cool way, right?
Yeah, they could.
I'm not sure that the case for this first one, though. I think if we want to start,
Well, that is actually more so the suggestion.
yeah,
If we go from this going from the 16th of March 2023, suggestion being a randomized button for weapons, which could be cool. I hope that means they wrote it down. I mean, you even don't know what that means, really. Could be cool. Obviously, probably not something they thought about. It's also not like a great idea, but it would be kind of fun. I would love to be able to just randomize my entire loadout. I would love it.
I think that you would want to take it further than that, right? Like, honestly, maybe even like add a new loadout, which the purpose of it is that loadout has a randomized button, and that would be like that. Like, obviously, you can not use it, but that would be like kind of the point of the slot.
Or it'd be like it'd be a temporary thing. You could like do it as you go into the mission, right? Because that would be better. Because then you would want to do it to sort of give yourself a challenge. But then if you see what it's randomized to before going in, you might be put off. But it just randomizes it temporarily for the mission, and once you come out, all your loadouts are intact. That might be better. Or that could be like a weird. That would be a very weird mutator, though. It could work as a mutator, but that would be like really. That might not be a good thing to have to encourage people to do. Like, it shouldn't be included in assignments, but either way, yeah,
I think
it doesn't have to be
messing around with your weapons like that could be quite interesting. Like a one that turns off overclocks would be very interesting.
Oh,
but I think that's very far from that. But yeah, they didn't say no. That's often pretty good.
Okay, yeah. This suggestion is about more class ranks, which is just promotion tiers. And they said, no plans currently. The game still remembers how many times a dwarf was promoted. That's it. That's the whole point of this being included. We now have confirmation that they have that stat. Yeah. And that's all I care about. That's all I need to know. Even if they never do it, it means that it's still very possible for them to update the promotion tiers. And I'm not going to go on a rant about this, but all I'm going to say is just adding more tiers is absolutely not what they should do in that department. Just adding more tiers, because most people who've gone past Legendary 3 are quite a bit past Legendary 3 by now on the ones that they have that rank on. So that's not a solution, but that's not what was talked about here.
We're both of the opinion that it would be like an infinite Obsidian tier or something, right? Where it just have a number at the top.
Yeah, you could do that. You could even just be like, just go back to base, just go back to the beginning, reset.
The retirement idea.
Then you don't have to design anything. You just need to put a number. And there would need to be a number.
Just numbers. If they get numbers involved, it becomes infinite and way more valuable.
Yeah. And we are very, very confident that that's worth spending time on, because it wouldn't be a huge effort, but it would see probably a very significant long-term benefit. It would increase the retention of already pre-existing long-term players, and will probably create more long-term players.
Yeah, and I think it's slightly relevant for a question I saw like a little bit later, but we'll probably touch on it then. Yeah. Point is, I was just glad that, like, because we already kind of knew, like, because the cost kept going up, right, of things you need for the promotion. So clearly they were slightly keeping track of it.
Oh, would you hold on? By later, do you mean like the next question, the next suggestion?
Maybe it's all blurry for me right now.
That being just more endgame content.
Yes.
And it just says that depends on how endgame is defined. Most things they add with seasons can be endgame. I would say they are not in the endgame category. They are simply available to everyone.
That's the all game.
Yeah, it's all game. And I think by this point, giving a little bit of attention to the specifically endgame content in an upcoming season is probably a good idea, because they are gaining more and more loyal players, and they care about that shit.
The thing is endgame content isn't even the right word for it. Just an infinite endgame system would probably be more accurate, right? Or like it would be like just having infinite promotions, which just generally would encourage playing through the endgame, right? Because essentially, I think the endgame is once all your dwarves are legendary 3, right? Because by that point, you would have gotten everything. You are done with the game. If all of your dwarves are legendary 3, you are done. There is nothing else to be aiming for other than more blue levels, which you can't even see in game. Right? It's literally that is the end game.
And this is
Something
why we
from
want
then
to
on.
talk to a dev, because I just
Yeah.
feel like they're not getting the right suggestions in this department. I mean, they might be if they're watching our videos, but I just mean it sounds very up myself to say something like this, but I feel like I just need to, sit down with them and say, you don't need to give us actual content. We just need a way of signifying our progress beyond current max level. And that doesn't need to be... You don't need to create any 3D assets, first of all. You don't need new cosmetics or... Well, it'd just be cosmetics, I suppose.
And they barely need to add much more coding, considering they are keeping track of it. They just need to add the visuals to that, right? That's all it would take. Adding the visual of what promotion you're on, continuing onwards, which they already keep track of. So it really is kind of that simple. And that would honestly, you would probably hear a vast majority of the end game players, like the level 800s and above, basically, shutting up, essentially, right? Like they'll be like, "Oh, cool." Like that's all I ever needed, really.
It might even shut up the people asking for Hazard 6. I'm not sure, but
because that's a different issue.
yeah, but they're all max level though. They're all max level,
Yeah.
And if they have more like progression or just infinite progression, they might not be as satisfied. Anyway, I said we weren't going to go on a rant, and we did.
That was like
Someone wants rewards for going past the quota, mission quota, for example, secondary or primary objectives. No, the player isn't supposed to go above the quota, finish the objective, and do another mission. Perfectly valid response. Doesn't really need to be elaborated on. Mainly because most of the missions don't really allow for you to go above the quota. It's really just like point extraction and mine expedition.
Yeah, which I think that's kind of the impulse, right? It's like there is Morkite still there. There's plenty of Morkite still there. Why wouldn't they want more? But it's like, no, you're there to get that much, get in, get out. Because it's like, it's not just them that's exploiting you. You just kind of want to do your job, right? Do the exact amount that's asked of you and then leave.
Dwarves don't work overtime, right? So what are you doing? You're a bad dwarf.
Especially if they don't get paid for it, right?
Exactly. Because I just don't think DRG would. I think that's why I like that sort of in-universe reasoning. They have the quota there so that they don't have to. It's just an arbitrary way for them to not pay the dwarves more because they would naturally want to get more Morkite. But Deeprock's just like, nah. You could though, but we're not going to pay you for it.
Yeah.
But I don't know why they wouldn't want more Morkite, but I don't know. Maybe it's too expensive for them to pay. I don't know. Whatever. Fix falling. No, sorry, shit. Oh boy, Hazard 6. What a great suggestion. Not planned. I'm surprised that they aren't just saying no, which is they always explain it.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but I'm surprised they haven't just they haven't really put their foot down on this in terms of their response. We know that the actual development cycle of this is a hard no. It's never going to happen, or at least, well, I shouldn't say 0% chance, but not planned. People play Hazard 5 and find it too easy or too small a subset. It makes more sense as a mod. Which, I mean, I'm not 100% sure how I feel about that part of it, though. But obviously, that's not, that's not inherently Mikkel's perspective, by the way. I want to point that out.
We both, I think everyone should realize that Hazard 6 isn't enough, right? Hazard 6 would still not be enough for those players. Let's get that out of the way, right? They are playing on Hazard 6 times 2, if not Hazard 7, right?
Times 2.
Hazard 6
yeah.
would not feel their niche at all. Plus, touch such a literally it would affect as many players as that play Hazard 1, right? That's like about the same amount of players. Which is why I think you can add increased difficulty, but don't do it as another hazard. Do it for something where everyone can do it, right?
Add 2 times enemy to the mutator.
maybe something like that. But I mean, obviously, the sandwich ideas is the thing I'm really fond of. But it would literally be like even people that like playing on Hazards 3, if they want more difficulty but not Hazard 4, if you know what I mean, right? They don't want the enemies to be more difficult, but they do want more enemies, right? That kind of thing. So I guess, just a times 2 would work. But I think if you add an increased difficulty outside of hazards, all players could use that to adjust their own hazards that they're comfortable playing on.
Yeah.
And maybe, slightly tilt it up. Because, some people, they really do find going from 3 to 4 like a very difficult ball. Maybe if there are some light difficulty increasing things in the game, they can work their way up through Hazard 3 by adding slightly more enemies to the pool or making the enemies like slightly quicker and stuff like that in like difficulty.
Or
and
upgrading the rank of all enemies.
Yeah.
Because that's a Halo skull, which is what the entire concept circles back around to. And it's something that they've noted before as well, Ghost Ship have noted. And it's called Mythic. And basically what it does, it upgrades the rank of all enemies. But in the context of Deep Rock, what would that mean? And I'll tell you what it would mean, and it's going to be ridiculous. It would basically bring, swarmers up to grunts, grunts up to slashers, slashers up to guards, Praetorians up to oppressors, guards up to Praetorians, oppressors up to dreadnoughts. Something, because obviously that's like ridiculous, but that's kind of the point, though. I thought some people want ridiculous difficulty, like just, balls to the walls, nonsensically difficult, basically. And that I agree that we don't have that in the vanilla game. We don't have completely nonsensical difficulty. We got some bullshit like haunted caves, but that's bullshit. It's just this horrible, really shit ass hazard, not like an overall uplift in the difficulty. So yeah, just do something. Do something. Maybe. I don't know. Doesn't need to be Hazard 6 though. This is a lovely suggestion. Fix falling through the map. No. How else do we get those ridiculous distance travel statistics in the KPI terminal? I feel like that's one of those bugs that's just like really like unfixable.
Yeah.
It's also not game breaking either. I mean, it's not really, is it? Except the one when you join, except when it's a connection based one and you join the game and you fall through the map because you're not connected properly. When it just happens, you'll just land somewhere. You'll probably die, but because you've fallen so far, but you'll end up back in the map. It's kind of hard. I mean, it is something they probably would have fixed by now as well. It's a really long-standing bug that doesn't go unnoticed either. So I think that's just they're just joking about it because they can't really do anything about it. It's like,
yeah.
Maybe like this. Actually, not like this one, which is. Fix collision around the drop pod, which is, I admit, is a little bit janky. They wanted to look into it before season 3, but didn't have time. It was a quick solution to fix a different bug. I mean, I'm not sure what solution they're talking about, but either way, it's something they're aware of. But I guess that just means it's quite a deep-rooted bug that they didn't have time to do it, basically. Because I can find that a bit weird though, because you can put out patches at any time, so. It doesn't have to be part of the season. And they don't necessarily... Oh, God, where are we going? Whatever. Someone wants them to expand seasonal content beyond specific mutators. Apparently some things have to stay special, but who knows? I wonder the guy who asked this, I wonder if he's played... when he started playing. But I don't know what the response means. That's the thing that confuses me.
I think they don't. They think that keeping these enemies in their own little bubbles keeps them special. That's how I see it. Like only bump each other's enemies in specific mutators is what keeps it special. But who knows? Because maybe they might change it in the future. That's how I read it, at least. Yeah, I mean, there's not much there really. It's expressed the point that why.
It's also not true though, is it? Because you do get seasonal content outside of mutators.
Yeah. game.
Easy suggestion here. New weapons. No specific plans, but they'll probably have to add more at some point. They'll
Yes,
have
I
to.
know.
Yeah, it's good. It'll almost definitely happen. But they do talk about sort of like how difficult it is in the sense of like it's a lot of work, right? Because it's a lot of work, and this isn't in this response isn't in this video. It actually was on the yesterday's stream, maybe actually the day before. I'm not sure. I was just watching it a little bit. And they said like it's a lot of work because of all of these different things, right? They said because of making all like the frameworks and all the mods and overclocks. And I'm not saying that they don't understand this because I think they actually do, but they didn't, clarify that the reason why there's such good content is because of all that stuff they have to make for them. It's because of all the shit that it brings with it. Is why weapons are so fantastic, I just hope that they don't see it as just a lot of work, and it's only like the same result as say new grenades. And I don't think they see it that way. You would look at the updates. Look at the updates; it might portray it that way, but that's not the case.
They know that they'll have to do guns again. They know that guns is that kind of content where because it's like they talk about a new dwarf, right? People talk about a new class, which obviously we didn't add on here.
No.
But like they say that's a lot of work, and then they pretty much say a hard no. But even though the weapons are a lot of work, technically still drastically less than a new dwarf, because a new dwarf implies a lot more guns and other stuff. But even though they take a lot of work, probably the maximum I assume it's probably up there as things they do now or can do now as far as work put into a single thing is concerned. Especially since we're getting more and more frameworks.
Oh yeah.
They know they still have to do it, and they know they will have to do it again because they know damn well that the guns are the content that everyone would want most.
Hey, look, they went into season 1, making the new weapons, third generation of weapons, and that carried over to season 2. And what I mean when they went to season 1 with that, season 1 also started them introducing a new set of frameworks every update, for example, which sort of adds on to the work they have to do every time they have to make new weapons. So I would hope they took that into account, because then they started doing both things at the same time, right? They know they're increasing the amount of work they have to put into new weapons every time they release a new season because there's a new framework. But that's not huge either. And it also just goes beyond the individual parts. It's all the skins and the frameworks to unlock. It's the weapons themselves to unlock. It's the mods themselves to buy and unlock, and all the overclocks to find. And then beyond that, it's just the ridiculous amount of depth and variety as to the classes and the balance and the meta. And it's going to be even greater now that the weapon selection that we already have is bigger than before. It's just going to be exponential, which is why I'd love to see them go up to 5 or something.
The more guns they add, they are still very, very, very important, but they do become slightly less valuable, right? Because we had the 2 gens of weapon, and this 3rd gen was another 50% of weapons, if you know what I mean, right? On top, it's another, a half of what we already had has just been added on, but that number will go down if we add another one. I guess it'll be 33% of what we had has now been added, and then I guess 20%. Sure if that's up. I don't think it does. 25%. Basically, the amount of new content added with the new weapons will technically go down because of how much stuff is already there. You know what I mean?
Kind of.
We had 2 weapons and they gave us a 3rd. So that was, an extra 50%. Or another...
I see what you're saying. So, say the 4th generation of weapons is only going to be 25% of the class's selection of weapons, whereas before it was a 33%, and before that it was half and half.
Yeah. So even though
I think it gives them better value over time, though. I think it's a better value over time, better value in terms of mixing and matching weapons too, which is one of the most important parts. So,
I do think.
I think it balances out.
I think if we have 5 guns for each class by the end of this game's life, it will be in such a good state. Right? The combinations and things, especially if all of them have like up to 10 overclocks, right? Like over time.
I do think that
That
is the maximum as well, by the way, because if we go up to 5, that's going to be a long way from now, and once they do get to that point, that's going to be a very long time of, the meta will shift a lot in and out based on those. There just being so many weapons now, and just any other content they add that the weapons get used against, and also just the idea of balancing and patching. How many is that? That's 40 weapons in total. That's going to give them so much work over such a long period of time that they'll never have to add new weapons, because just the way they interweave and interact is just going to constantly create a changing balance. Whereas, I think right now they're heading towards like a plateau of balance, which I don't think is 100% a good thing. As in, I think that would be good once it happens, but then once we've reached a plateau of balance, it will sort of wear off after a while, and people start craving things to just shake up the balance, almost just for the sake of it. But new weapons are better than just for the sake of it. They shake up the balance just naturally by virtue of their existence, instead of just Ghost just making arbitrary changes just to shake things up.
I think for now, I think we like weapon wise, I think we look at maybe next season or season after or maybe even this season, we get a overclock drop to shake things up. And then give them another 2 years, I would imagine, and we might start hearing rumors of the next gen of gun.
I think it's like I'm not going to say anything like that. I would say, but season 6 earliest, obviously, but probably not season 6 either. But probably.
How long was the time between Gen 2 and Gen 3? That was like a good 3 years, right?
Yeah, it's about 3 years, probably a bit less actually.
Actually, I guess I don't know if we're approaching a year of new secondaries, because like I don't know if you would say the date that they were added or generally the time they were added. You know what I mean? Like it's either the launch of season 2 or season 2 as a whole kind of changes that. But
I think they're going to start. I think it probably won't be the next season after this, but I think they'll start considering it once they've done the perks.
I think they should already kind of be like very low key, just like in casual conversations, throwing around ideas.
Well, I think they probably have a lot of ideas, I reckon, and they have a lot of ideas to choose from as well if they look to the community. So I don't think that's the problem. I really don't, and I really hope that they don't have an issue with literally coming up with enough unique ideas, because enough unique ideas exist for at least 2 more generations of weapons. Actually, I shouldn't say at least so confidently, to be honest. For Deep Rock, they do like them to be very unique, and that's why I do think 5 each is the maximum.
Yeah.
Because they like them, and they're probably going to get more unique. Although personally, for me, the ideal is going up to 5, and ideally, I would want maybe like Gen 4 to actually be a little bit not quite as extravagant as Gen 3, as long as we're getting a Gen 5. That's what I mean. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then Gen 5, they can go as nuts as they want if they ever do that. But that's.
I think I can see Gen 4 shaking up a lot of what we already considered like weapons, right? Like I think we could see a non-elemental based primary for Driller, right? It might technically still be it, like the idea of the shrapnel shotgun, basically, where it uses like bleed, and that's like technically it's like actual projectiles. And it's like not projectiles, but like it's not really an element. Like we might start seeing stuff like that.
Would you put the thunder gun in the same category, but it just uses it like it's like the element of air, but it's still just really just in the game. It's just going to be using kinetic damage. Would you consider that the same thing, or would you consider that more elemental because of the concept?
Yeah, but it would be like I don't know, because as it stands, all of his guns just kind of deal the element and do that. That's it, the point of them, and we might start seeing some differences. Or else I don't know. I don't know if they could come up with 2 more like things, because obviously
you could. You've got air and you've got air and electricity if you want to be like real simple, but then you've also got like earth, which I really like the idea of. Actually, that's kind of it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
Time,
I think yeah,
dark and light,
basically,
dark and light.
they know they're gonna add new weapons, not anytime soon. I think we 2 to 3 years minimum. Um, we're gonna we might start hearing about it in 2 years' time. They might start hyping it up a little bit. Like they won't say no plans. They'll start saying, yeah, they'll probably start saying like it's about time, to start thinking about it again or some shit like that. But that's not anytime soon. Yeah.
Idiots. It's the best. It's the best thing. It's the best thing. What I mean by that, it's the best thing that they make as well. And it wasn't
don't
even.
want them adding I do not want all 5 generations of weapons out by in the next 2 years. That would be fucking terrible, right? You agree with that, right? You would not want them just releasing all of the guns to get it over with. You wouldn't want that. You would want them to add them slowly. So first of all, they get better and better, right? They've got a good couple years behind each of them, right? Because I mean, if they added Gen 3 weapons like a year or two after they added Gen 2, they would be worse than they currently are. Weapons would be worse. It's because they've gotten so much better over that period of time that these Gen 3 weapons are fire, generally.
I want new weapons before 2025. As in, maybe I should say, at least the next set of primaries. Maybe that's the reasonable way to put it. Like a time frame. As in, I think we might hear about them, by the end of next year or something like that.
No, that's too early.
It's not as early as you think.
Yeah,
it's actually that would actually be longer than the same gap. Yeah, it would be the same gap between Gen 2 and 3. Arguably slightly longer, I think it would be actually. So.
Oh, you said 3 years. That would just be 2.
Not from now. The primaries.
Since we got yeah, but
I also did say hear about it. Keep in mind, we heard about Gen 3 quite a while before they got added. So keep that in mind. I don't think that's too unreasonable. Anyway, that was ridiculous. That was ridiculous. But that's what you can expect from. That was a classic Barrel Vision tangent as well. If you miss the old Barrel Vision, there you go. I don't know. This is a bit of a weird way to word this, I've got to say. A suggestion of biome-coloured glyphids. Honestly, say there's already that to some extent. Changing appearance would create an expectation that they do something different too. Well, that's not true, is it? Because of what they just mentioned. The fact that we already have some of them, and they don't behave any differently except the Praetorian. Not 100% wrong, though, because of the Praetorian, which do behave differently.
I don't like the idea anyway.
I don't like the idea?
I don't see the appeal. I mean, obviously, variants of, Praetorians and Goo Bombers I get, but if there's going to be no gameplay difference, why bother?
Oh, we got plenty of Praetorian and Goo Bomber variants. Don't worry, we got. I mean, Praetorians really, they've got it going.
They do, and Goo Bomber is following in the rear now with the Rockbox 1 his way as well.
Yeah. Anyway, more bugs. Well, I mean, this is kind of a weird one. They interpreted it kind of as problems, right?
Right.
Maybe in a jokey way as well, because it's guaranteed each update that'll be so frustrating. It'll be all worth it. Whatever. Anyway, maybe we should just ignore this one because obviously definitely getting new bugs. Next season. So good luck with that. And obviously there'll always be new bugs. As in glitches. I still find glitches kind of weird as a thing. Why do they happen? And why are there so many that get through experimental as well? It's just kind of weird to me. A wonderful suggestion here. Skins for equipment. Not for Season 4. but would be cool to have at some point. Do you think there's any reason to pick up on not for season 4?
Yeah, no, yeah. I think because if they said yes, people would kind of expect it for season 4. But I think that I think we should definitely expect to see that in a close future.
Yeah, the problem I have with it though is that I don't think it's like 100% needed, to be honest. Not that it wouldn't be good, but then it's like, would that become like a seasonal thing as well? Like every season they add more skins to the equipment as well. Would that be worth adding that on?
Yeah,
I think they would feel really weird.
as the driller main, yes. I cannot put into words how much ruins every single look I come up with that I have. Well, other than actually, I don't have one. But like, if you would try anything other than default yellow, your drills look dumb, and it ruins it. I will murder you and anyone else if it means that I can make the drills the same color as my uniform and or just general color. Although I swear to God, if they put a fucking gun skin on those drills and just have them not match any of the armor, I will murder them next. Point is, I care very passionate about this because realistically, this only affects the drills. Nothing else would really matter that much. I mean, turrets would look cool.
Well, yeah, that's the problem. That is the main problem, actually, because it's not... okay, it would feel really weird, but they shouldn't do it for support tools. Because one of them's a satchel charge and one of them's a shield generator. Those things can't get cosmetics. Not in a valuable way. Not certainly... I know you could, but it's not... It's not anything, really. And then turrets are pretty much a similar thing as well. I mean, it'd be kind of cool to see something that you've customized, separate from your person. And flare gun is actually the best one for that because it's like a gun. The traversal tools, on the other hand, yeah, they could get it. All of them. Platform guns just like big, and you do use it fairly often. Grappling hook and drills are always in use for those classes. Because the grappling is quite small. Either way, I think the traversal tools definitely justify it. But support tools don't. They would want to do both, and I feel that's why they're struggling though. But it wouldn't be so much like a thing to like struggle to decide on if they just only did traversal tools. But then they would probably feel bad for not doing the support tools, even though. All I'm saying is you have to agree that the traversal tools deserve it more, right?
Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
But they justify it more.
They're just asking for like color skins, which I think is pretty. Just literally just, and yeah, I don't know. I don't think it'll be that big of a deal. Plus, it would add a lot of things into the pool, wouldn't it? If they added like there's however many gun color schemes there are, like onto both mobility and utility, that would add a lot to wherever that is. Would that be like overclocks or like not overclocks, but like cores or like cargo grades?
What would?
I guess they would probably maybe make their own. Like, that could be an excuse to make a new thing, really.
I mean, I definitely want, and maybe this is a bit unreasonable. I want. Oh, I honestly more specifically want frameworks for them than paint jobs. Obviously, you definitely want both.
The only issue is though is that only really 2 to 3 of them warrant it.
I know, and once again, it does come down to the drills, though. And like almost every framework would be awesome to see on the drills, wouldn't it? Like Rival Tech, for example.
Yeah, like
or Waster.
I feel like it would be really kind of unfair if they did this, but it really wouldn't be the most abhorrent thing in the world if they basically tied the drills to the drillers like armor, and essentially like literally like no other anything for anyone else. Not obviously it's not satchel charges get anything close to this, but basically the drills get their matching armor color and armor set. Like you would get a Robot Rebellion drills, and it would be like rustic and jagged. and you would get your like I don't know biohazard drills, some shit like that, right? You would get armor drills and whatever color thing you on there because I don't know. It's just they need them. They
If they
look
want
so
to,
bad.
if they don't want to do it in if they don't want to add it to like the thing, something they have to do every season, they could have like a DLC pack that is just purely dedicated to cosmetics for those things. But then they would feel bad that it's all in DLCs, like 100%. So I can see why this isn't necessarily an easy thing to do because, you know, it's not even like the traversal tools across the board justify it, really. So even then, it's a bit difficult. And I kind of agree with the drill thing. Even though it's not like it's the most important one, definitely, because like they're almost like part of his figure. You know, drillers like character silhouette would probably include the drills. So I get that. And once again, that's probably a difficult thing because like they don't want to leave any others out either. Yeah, I'm not going to say anything about that, actually. I feel like we probably disagree. So, and I don't want to argue.
And let's move on to blue beard color.
Which I don't think we disagree on. Right, blue beard colour. More colours can be expected. They've been adding one new colour each season. Can't say for certain about blue. They're being pricks about blue. And I don't know if I've included the other comment they made about the blue beard. They're not doing it. They're not doing it. Either it's in the next season, they're being cheeky, or they're just not doing it on purpose because they think it's funny.
Sorry, but literally on a very very genuine note, like if they do not add the blue beard hair, they are being pricks because they know damn well.
It's like the only color. It's the only hair color that gets suggested.
And it is often. Right, if they were like, what beard color, hair color will we add this season? Right, like the blue would definitely be the first thing to come up because they would all know that the only beard color that people recommend, right? Obviously, people generally would probably prefer, quite a few different colors, but the only one that generally the entire community as a whole can come and say is blue, and it's so fucking obvious. Scout needs blue hair. Right? Like, it would just work for so many of his looks. It's so natural that people pair the hair color with the armor color. And Scout has,
what I find really funny about that is that I just agree on principle, but for some reason I don't feel it even slightly. It's like really weird. Like, I think that's correct, but for some reason, when I just go off what I feel about it, I don't give a fuck. Which is really weird. It's like my heart is just like, Scout doesn't need blue hair, but I agree still. But nothing about my instincts tell me that's a good idea, but I know that it is. So listen to Tyler on this one.
It's just, why not? Like, you've added 2 greens.
I'll admit the recent green's better than the old green.
Sure, but there's fucking 2 of them.
I know.
And blue. Make it a good blue. If you add it like the old green, then fuck you. But if you add it like the new green and it's a nice, rich, deep blue, then good. Like, seriously, they know that everyone wants blue.
I really hope I didn't include that other one. I'm hoping because you're going to get really angry. Anyway, let's just move on because we have to. More commands for the laser pointer. No plans. They feel the contextual nature works and what is being asked should be clear from the ping. We talked about the callout system recently. There's 2, functions tied to the callout system. That's all they need. The laser pointer, you point at something, the voice line that comes out is usually related to what it is, and that's kind of all you need. The game doesn't need any more callouts. I guess the only one is if there was a way to say that you need ammo. But the dwarves do that themselves as well.
Yeah.
And also, you can see like how much ammo everyone has. I'm not sure. But they have like a very good like understanding of like the callout system they've made, and they are very justifiably standing by it as well. So good on them, basically. Right. someone wants an in-game cosmetic tracker, which I don't know what that means. That's some kind of like just a compendium, or just a list of things that they've unlocked, I guess. Right, and then like it would include all of the ununlocked slots, right? The ones that they haven't got as well. They can see what they do and don't have. But they're doubtful. But they want to make wardrobe a little more organized.
They wouldn't need to if there wasn't so many hats.
Yeah, it's not even that unorganized. It's just there's just one bloated category. That's actually all it is.
Genuinely, I spend a good couple minutes every time I'm looking through hats. I cannot find anything in there. Mostly it's on me though, because I'm not good at finding things anyway. But
well, there is the problem that they take a very long time to load all of the hats because there's so many of them. And this suggestion is becoming a bit more common about dividing sort of the head area cosmetics into more than one.
Even within the category. I mean, first of all, I both think they should split it apart generally and make hats and like masks and that shit their own things. But like even just within the category, just start at the top with maybe just DLCs, and then after DLCs, you just kind of go full face, and then you work your way down to like minimal shit, right?
The problem is to truly go as far as they need to go, they need to add at least 2 more categories, right? Because obviously you have some of the ones like there are some beards that they could make, and they have some that they move to beards very justifiably. There's more, but but you do have like the goggled head wrap, for example, or like the bottom part from the mouth downwards. That could be a beard, for example. But to really go as far as they need to, you need a category for eyewear, a category for head wear, and a category for hair. And then they would also need to make it so that you can have whatever hair you want, but obviously some hats would cancel it out. But then also, to justify that, they would need to make it so some hair actually works with certain hats, even when beforehand they used to cancel each other out. At the same time, the reason I think this isn't too unreasonable, because I think it's the only thing they need to do in terms of adjusting like the cosmetic systems. That's why I don't think it's too unreasonable. Because if they're going to pay any attention to that, that's the thing they should do with cosmetics. So, do it. Please, for the love of God. I just think they have a hard time justifying spending like time on that, because I don't think it would take a small amount of time.
Oh, quite a bit.
Exactly.
It'll be quite a lot on the people that they probably don't normally put a lot on. Right? It'll be the people that just do the seasonal cosmetics and then like maybe holiday stuff or like designing the new enemies. But it will be throwing a shit ton of work on them to like dissect the current skins or the current like helmets and shit. I still think they should do it. It would be a lot on them.
Yeah, there's like stuff that's definitely worth see. I sometimes wish they did things because of like the mixed response to certain stuff. Like all the most recent updates have had mixed response in some areas, and all I would say is there are things that they could do that they know at least some people will like, right? And they're kind of doing things that they are hoping everyone would like. But there are things that they could do that they know at least no one's going to dislike, and some people will absolutely like. And I feel like that justifies some of these things, in my opinion, and why they should work on some of these things. Because they know at least some people will like it, and no one's going to dislike it. I guess you could end up getting complaints and people are just like, where's the real content? Kill those people. Kill those people. Yeah, I'll do it. Because... I don't know. That's April 1st event, as in April Fools. They'd rather spend effort to prepare longer events, which is fair. You wouldn't have an April 1st event in any game that actually goes beyond April 1st. That would feel really weird. But they could still could do something for the day. And apparently Jacob suggested that during April 1st, deleting a beer with Q makes the dwarf drink it, which is fucking hilarious. Assuming you know what that means.
I mean, they can't do it anymore, right? Like,
no, they can't do it anymore. That's also an outdated one, but that still would have been hilarious. Honestly, what they should do is make so every drink you order is a leaf lover. I think that would be hilarious. Right. Okay, another joke one. Option to slap dice more. They could give us more dice to slap. Like 50% more. What does that mean? 50% more. What they put more dice somewhere? Where, like in the cabin?
No, they just add another dice to the dice.
You can't have 3 dice.
Dice.
You should add a D20. They just add Deep Rock D&D in the game. Wait.
R&D.
Fuck. R&D. Rock and Deep. What a brilliant idea. Okay.
Yeah.
A more up in your face suggestion. Portable healing. No. They feel healing is in a good place currently, and the game doesn't need more ways to heal. I don't think it needs more ways to heal each other. And I kind of agree with them in general, actually. I think it's actually fine.
Yeah.
I think Tyler would probably say buff red sugar, but could do that. That's not adding more ways to heal. So
just yeah, I think maybe red sugar could be slightly bigger on average, or just have less chance of being.
I think maybe honestly, not even that. I think just more like just guarantee some in like every room or something, at least. It should always be available to you. Not like always available to you, but always available to you until you've used it, at least. You shouldn't be in a room where there's no red sugar. And maybe that means removing it from tunnels as well, I don't know. Right. Resolve the double beer buff issue, which people might not know about. All the beers, the buff beers, the day specials, their effects are double what they say they are. Some of them feel the double effect stood the test of time, but they can't promise it will remain as it is. Oh no. Well, I think like if they do that, they'll retain certain things, like probably like pots of gold, maybe. Especially considering like the anti-gold community, that would only help their case if pots of gold got fixed. So maybe they shouldn't do that. I don't want to give those people anything. But those guys who said it stood the test of time are right, because it's good.
Feel that overpowered?
No, exactly. That's what I mean. So it doesn't. If they say they can't promise it remain as it is, does that mean that the only thing that needs to change is the actual text itself? So, yeah. And that would still be it not remaining as it is. So that's fine. Do that though. Don't change the stats. Get rid of Dart and Morkite though, please. This is what I call a banger suggestion. Copy paste cosmetics / loadouts. It's something they hope to get around to when there's time for it. They want to do it. They want to do it. They want to do it. Which I can't really use, just go off like pure memory and tell you an example of when they just wanted to do something and it just happened in the next update. But that does mean it's probably going to happen. So, get excited, guys. And I feel like this is mainly for. What would you say this is more so for? In terms of how many when people suggest it. For cosmetics or for weapons. What do you mean you don't see the use?
Really get it.
Oh dear. Alright then. Great. Make EM discharge work on unbuilt turrets again. They don't think that's going to happen. And it's not. So, give up. Give up. Give up. This is a dumbass suggestion. Flamethrower igniting the Frost Praetorian's gas. I don't know if I would call it gas. It's mist, right? They're not sure if we know this, but ice is pretty hard to set on fire. It is. It really is. And it wouldn't make any sense. I don't even know what weapon could interact with that. I guess that's something about the radioactive and the Frost Praetorian is that you can't remove the death cloud.
Maybe if you shoot the cryo into it, it does like a cryo explosion.
But why would they react though?
I don't know, just
bullshit.
Give cryo that.
Yeah. Maybe not the coil gun, wave cooker. Maybe radiation does something to ice. I don't know. Maybe
Well, no, the radiation does it to the radiation Praetorian.
Oh.
It's a radiation explosion.
No, the other way around. Flip it.
No.
I remember for a while thinking the radioactive ones could be ignited. And they...
Idiot.
Yeah. No, I think they weren't... Well, they weren't around forever, to be fair. They weren't... I don't think they were a thing when we first started playing. So... They would have ignited at one point. They would have been normal Praetorians at one point.
That doesn't count, though.
No, it doesn't. You're right. So this suggestion is about the wave cooker affecting exploders after the explosion, which doesn't really make any sense. It already affects them in the sense that it just deletes them. So I don't really know what this person wants. And I guess they kind of get that. Why it already did at this point wouldn't make much sense. No, it wouldn't. Yeah, and I fuck off. Remake the Brood Nexus model. Some of them talked about it. Would be cool at some point. Well, you've got the design. So it's whenever you feel like it.
It's starting to get just really, really, really annoying. It's like, oh, when we get time. Like, who the fuck is stopping you?
That's why that is a really, really good point. No one's stopping them. I feel like sometimes I can't tell if they know how complacent the community is or not. You know,
You literally will take it. Like, people would much rather you do all of that shit than add a new piece of content that just pisses everyone off, right? Like, people would much rather all of that shit than Rivals.
yeah. Do the stuff that will. You know, I just mean it's not about to just spend some time doing the stuff that is like not going to be any. There's no chance of being controversial, right?
Yeah.
All of this quality of life retroactive stuff. Yeah,
you're the only ones that want it.
I mean, like, you know, optimizing, like, you know, the headwear categories, or, you know, remaking the Brood Nexus or the Spitballer models, all the stuff that no one's going to get annoyed at. You don't, I guess. And they always get a couple things in every season as well. They haven't forgotten about this kind of thing. It's just like, it just takes so long because
I remember
they never bundle it all into one. They just do a couple things in this department every season, and it's not a short list either. That's the thing. So it's not like they completely forget about it. I think that's what
they do, though, right? Like, that's when they try to find time. Like, they're like, okay, we have to do a giant season thing. We have to do this other piece of content for the general game, and then we'll try and fit in whatever we can in that slot. Not realizing that most people would much rather that little spot there take up like 90% of the entire thing.
Most pre-existing people, and that's why we need the player base to plateau, and then they'll start doing that stuff. And then, basically, that's how I see it. not inherently. Talking of a cool idea, but you know, okay, a bug that eats light. It's an idea they've had since forever ago, haven't moved through with it yet. And, you know, that could end up being outdated soon. Probably not, though. And to be fair, this idea specifically is probably one of those ones that's like more of a technical challenge than anything else, you know? I can't really... I wouldn't be able to, like, tell you what the exact issues would be, but I can imagine this not being easy to make, either. They probably don't want to fuck with their lighting engine too much. Because that bug would be buggy as well. It would be just because yeah. It's good that they like the idea. We've had it for a long time. But suggestion: damage numbers for console. No, it only exists on Steam as a mod. Now, I want to ignore that part because, in general, this is fair, because the decision to not have damage numbers in the game is a fine one. As in, I feel like games are allowed to do that, and I feel like the games that do it justify it, and the games that don't do it also justify it. As in, I don't think it's needed. It would be confusing, by the way. People don't realise how damage numbers work in Deep Rock. Whatever their version of it is would not help people. Because enemy health does not change between hazard levels. I don't know if people know this. Their damage resistance changes. The actual numbers you get like, you know, if you actually look at the damage numbers mod, it is also equally inaccurate. Because that's how it does things. It's based on the actual damage that you deal, not the other way around. Basically, all the community resources that you see, like the wiki and the carl.gg, the damage that they show for the weapons is correct. But if you had the damage numbers mod, you wouldn't actually do the amount of damage that it says it's doing on Hazard 5, because the enemies take less damage on Hazard 5. They don't actually have more health. The community's just chosen to do it in the more understandable way, which is that you deal more which is that you deal the same amount of damage across all hazard levels, and that the enemy's health changes. Apparently, it's easier that way, but that's not how the game does it.
You get more health, right? The wiki, it does show that, you know, as you go up in hazard and player number, things health goes up.
It's effective health. That's not based on like data mined information. It's just effective health. Their damage resistance goes up. Although in the context of the wiki specifically, I kind of get it, because it's just like they really go through the effort to come up with all these numbers. I guess so. But either way, the damage numbers wouldn't be that helpful. And not every game needs them. And Deep Rock hasn't had them since the beginning, which means it'll probably just end up being kind of weird. At the same time, you do have health bars. And health bars are the only thing like on screen that is like, you know, non-immersive almost. Really. I guess also the names of all the enemies. I don't know. You know, you could make the argument the dwarves do actually have like a HUD that tells them how close enemies are to death. But that's just bullshit explanation. Right. Wave defense mode. Pretty common. Well, not pretty common. Recurring, though. He's a recurring character. Very unlikely. They generally stick to designs that involve other objectives too. A pure shooting mission isn't really on the table now. Yeah, I guess not. And it's true. None of them are pure shooting.
Ending. Isn't that essentially what Doretta is?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Moving on.
Okay. Okay, I don't know why I put this one in here. Hold on. I'm not going to show you that. Sell actual beer. What a brilliant idea. And the only reason I put this in here is because, you know, I just find it kind of funny they have been approached by local breweries. You know, just generally making that as like a merchandise, I can see why they don't want to, but I just like the idea that they've actually been like approached. Like they've been approached. You know, by the local beer smiths. It's like, we want to make your beer. And it's like, no, can't afford it. So it's actually a weird suggestion, and I'm actually glad that they just don't really care to entertain it that much. And also, I find the wording of this confusing, but I do understand what he's saying. Solo resupply pods for 3-player teams. Obviously, it's just including the word solo is dumb as fuck. What it actually means is just that the number of they call them cassettes is relative to the number of players in the game. And they said they specifically don't want to introduce solo resupply pod in a 3-man team. The remaining cassette is anyone's, or, you know, the person who needs it most. It's actually, I don't know what this person basically wants them to be more, you know, handicapped, right? They want less resupplies. Does that mean if they were on their own, they would only get 1 cassette? That sounds awful. So I'm glad they're just not entertaining it.
Case, though, isn't it?
What?
But like, you just like, because you get the same amount of nitro, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of wild how much ammo you have.
But you're also on your own.
Yeah, the enemies are also toned down quite a bit, though.
Can't always get through all that ammo. That's actually the problem. You can't.
Yeah, that's because you like to be medium and not just giga ammo inefficient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why would I be?
Use Fat Boy.
No. Oh no. Fuck Fat Boy. Seriously, terrible. You know why it's terrible? Because it is. PvP. Obviously, this comes up a lot. I included this though because the response, which is just that they considered it at one point, a long time ago, and so they're not going to add PvP, which is obviously consolidated over time. But I never knew that they actually considered it. To be fair, I thought they just never, they just never thought it was a good idea. Which I guess it kind of means they would have had to consider it, but it doesn't really.
I mean, but it's probably really early on where they really had no idea what kind of game they were making.
Yeah, and I guess it's more just like they just decided to go to make a not PvP game. That's actually what that means. And that's why it doesn't have PvP, because it's a co-op game. Right? And obviously, most PvP games you're on a team, but they're not actually technically co-op games. It's a different little genre, really. Or it's just a PvE game, I suppose. When I think about it, this one isn't actually like hugely common, but I think I've seen it before. Overclocks for equipment, no plans. The idea of overclocks is to change behavior in a major way, not true for cleans, and also most balanced. And they want tools to remain as they are to preserve class identity. And obviously, we've known that that's their reasoning for a very long time.
Although it's kind of goofy.
Why?
Like, I doubt there is anything an overclock inherently could do that would change the tool as much as Gemini and Mark II. Right?
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. But I guess most other players aren't really relying on the engineer to have a specific type of turret. They just know he's got.
What would the overclock do? It wouldn't change it from being anything other than a turret. It would always still be a turret. Same as it would always still be a shield. The shield, literally, you can't rely on a gunner's shield to last an amount of time. You could easily build it to where it fucking dissipates in like a couple seconds, right? It could be a giga-sized shield and it could evaporate in an instant, right? Like, you can't rely on a shield being good or lasting a while or being big. You can't do that. Then you don't see them complaining about that. And an overclock would only ever change that kind of thing on it as well, right? It would only ever change how long it lasts or how big it is or some other funky thing like that. Like, overclocks wouldn't change anything mods aren't already doing.
Well, that's why they can just do it all in the form of more mods.
Exactly.
Because all of them have room for more mods.
Yeah. Which is why I think, I don't know, it maybe needs to be worded like that at some point, that someone just needs to say, like, tier 5 mods for equipment.
I feel like a lot of the time now, I can't actually say I blame community for this. But sometimes I wish they got asked the right questions, because the right questions can lead to the right answers. Which sounds kind of weird. But I mean, in this specific case, if you instead of asking for overclocks for equipment, you obviously just get them saying no overclocks for equipment. But if you say, can we get tier 5 mods for equipment, they'll be like, we actually hadn't considered that.
Yeah, but I don't doubt for a moment they have considered that. They just never thought it worth reconsidering or continue to consider, I assume. I don't think they're incompetent enough to have not considered that.
Well, I mean, I only really put this in here so just...
No one in the community has brought it up to them, and they probably have dropped thinking about it, so they fall back into the, things they care about and think about.
I just want to reiterate that they can absolutely make more, like, exciting and interesting upgrades for, like, those, for the equipment, without betraying class identity. Easily.
And I think especially
it's just doable. There's more exciting stuff you could do with them, and without actually changing them.
The disparity of them is fucking ridiculous. Like, some of them, like, you have got the most boring ass shit, right? Like, I mean, fucking the flare gun is literally like, it's like flare time and ammo. That's like it. Right? Anything else that it does, reload speed in it, or like mag size. Like, it literally is a fat ball in nothing.
The Scout is actually a really good case, though. The Scout's a good case for, more stuff. Because it's all, like, really... flares you just can't change that much, or I guess you could, as long as they still light shit up. No one's going to think... No one's going to think differently.
never
And the
notice.
grappling hook's entirely like self-focused anyway. So
Yeah, but you do notice the grappling hook, because if you don't have like quickest reload or like quickest recharge, it's just bad, right?
well, what
Like,
I think makes it bad is when you don't have the hook shoot out faster, because then it's
Yeah,
like
I guess.
you fall a little
But-
bit waiting for the hook to actually reach
like
the terrain.
that tier is like the only thing that actually makes the grappling hook slightly above the worst fucking mod selection like around. Like,
Honestly, you know what I think actually changed a lot? Because you take something like the platform gun. So obviously, pretty much everyone gets like the one that reduces full damage like very quickly, but that's still an upgrade, and it's just on its own. That is
those are fucking brain dead. I can't like, because the satchel charge has one pick up. Right?
yeah. But that platform gun
in
one
what
is so much
universe-
so that's so much so seen as one of the platform gun's primary functions, and yet it's not actually inherent to the weapon. But it's also a single tier. It's a single mod tier. So it basically is, and so it should just be. But then, you take something like repellent additive. There's genuinely been scenarios where, like, for me, I haven't had enough platforms to do what my teammates want me to do, because I don't have as many platforms in total because of repellent additive. Not because I've been using them for repellent additive inherently, but because that sacrifices ammo. So I don't have as much ammo as people expect me to have. Genuinely.
But, like, no, I agree, but it's like they talk about how they want your things to be reliable, and I think the two primary evidences of cases that they've thought about that and made choices on that are the platform thing where it's the one tier in that mod, so you basically have to pick it because there's no reason not to, and you take less fall damage, and like the picking up satchel charges. Those two things are things that I can genuinely agree with Deepwalk, that people should expect that on your weapon.
But that's
which is
why it
it's
should be
only one of
inherent to them. It's like,
But yeah, the fact that you can not, like, you can, as an engineer, genuinely, for malice's sake, never pick that mod. All of you will like play engineer forever. You will accept the full damage that you take just because you will kill so many teammates who just assume you have it. Because I think there is like a slight hue change, isn't there? But no one's noticing
Is
that,
it?
especially if you're the only engineer.
Oh no, they actually do, like, just for some reason the texturing is actually slightly different. That's actually
But,
true.
like, if
I
there is
always
no
forget about that.
comparison, they won't know, right? And like literally, so they made the decision that that's the only mod there because you should have to pick it essentially. But I find it brain dead that if it is essentially required and all your teammates would expect that as a constant feature in the gun, why isn't it a part of the gun? Because genuinely, you cannot pick that mod. You cannot do it. You can actively choose to fuck over your teammates with that. And is that not the exact thing that they're concerned about with doing overclocks or alternate tools? Right?
Yeah, I mean, I should
Exactly.
point out that if you don't take it, that is only for trolling purposes. To be fair,
Yeah,
right?
but, like,
It's not like you don't have another option. You're only doing it to troll people. So that's on you if you do that, but it still could still be completely avoided.
But like, is that not a lot worse than if you just used a different utility tool? Wouldn't people be far more understanding if that was the case, instead of you actively just using the platforms but just they'll die to full damage, right? Like, it is so annoying how they contradict themselves with the tools there so hard, and just are so blindsided that stale part of the game is so fucking stale. They haven't touched it since what, like 4 years.
I think
probably?
they literally just don't want to touch it. I think they're terrified. And do you know what I think? Do you know what I
No,
think?
they're
I
not.
think
I don't think they're terrified, because what are they terrified of? No one is like, oh no, if you change a single mod, I will fucking kill myself. No one gives a shit because it's stale. They need to touch it up in somehow, change the mod slightly, add some mods, add overclocks, add new tool versal. They fucking need to. That is the top tier, and they're completely ignoring it, entirely disregarding it as a category. Because they're just dumb. This is genuinely probably my biggest gripe, where they have just they forgot to change it in the past, and now they're just assuming they had a good reason for it, is what it feels like. They're making up reasons as for why they don't do it when there isn't any. It is so fucking stupid. They are constantly betraying what is there. Like you're saying, no, we want people to like rely on what you have and that all you have is similar, but it's already not the case. You can already get giga short-lasting shields that will probably kill you because you assumed it would last longer. You can get platforms that don't reduce your full damage and you will die because you've assumed it does, right? You can have satchels that will never get picked up and they're just there now. You don't expect drillers to fucking do that. Like you can't expect already. What the fuck are they
Tyler,
going on
that's
about? What
not
game are they playing?
that's not the worst thing about the satchels by far. That's
Radius is fucking ridiculous.
No.
Like,
It's the one where if you shoot it, it explodes.
Yeah,
obviously.
Shooting explosives or radius. Like the radius thing, honestly, the satchels are fairly manageable and not that deadly. Put the radius mod on, they will kill you and your entire team. Literally, the radius mod is the team killer thing about the satchel charges. I shit you not. If you do not pick the radius, people will not really die to your satchels generally, unless you try and kill them with it. But if you put the radius on, you and so many more people will die. But that's a mod. You pick that, and people just have to trust that you don't, or you do, and you know what you're doing. Like you can't trust what people are running. It's so fucking stupid, and I hate that argument so much. And I think this would be something that I would genuinely get. Like normally, if we were to interview a dev, I think I would genuinely be quite calm. But I think I would get heated over this because it is so frustrating. How just wrong they are. And how clearly they have not examined that part of the game in so fucking long. Like they are just spouting the same shit without looking at it, and realizing that you wouldn't need to add guns again. You would probably be fine with not adding guns for like another 5 fucking years if you just touched equipment. Literally, just like change a single fucking stat on a mod, and people are like, whoa, whoa. We didn't even know that was an option. Just fuck me, man. I mean, come on. They're better than this. It really pisses me off.
Honestly, aside from the turrets, in general, they're not even the tools don't even justify having mods, right? By their principles, they just should be like a flat. You shouldn't be able to customize them, basically.
Yeah.
According to what they say, at all. But then you have the turrets, which completely go against that because you need those like upgrades, kind of, and some of the options. Really? But even then, there's a very much so a meta there where people basically have a version of the turrets that they would like be happy if they were just that.
You could easily probably just have like I don't know, just like unmod all of them, and probably that's it. That's the state of that thing. And honestly, they would probably argue that would be all right? Like, it preserves the class identity. Like, fuck off. Like, genuinely.
It's not even because it's like having a particularly negative effect. Like, I mean, as in like perks, arguably, much more noticeably in need of help, right? The tools are just kind of boring at this point. That's what it is.
They are so boring. People have they've forgotten about it. That's an option, right? Like it is so boring that people are just sleeping on it, literally. Like it's so and I hate how they keep just pushing it off and spouting the exact same shit, which always falls flat. It is never held up. It's just so irritating.
They're probably just told to say that, you know.
No, that's their reasoning because they haven't bothered to fucking look at it and realize, oh shit. They're just doing other things, and they as long as they never point out how terrible they are, then nobody else will notice. Like it's just so fucking annoying. Like, yeah, like I genuinely at this point in time. As much as I think a new traversal tool will literally turn it into Deep Rock 2, like if they all got new traversal and utility tools, it would be an entirely new game.
Well, that's what I want. I like the option of them removing the upgrades and also doing different tools as well instead of upgrades. Straight up, just like that, as in like more like grenades than weapons. Would actually be kind of interesting. Where you just have different tools to switch through.
Would stop asking for cosmetics. Right, Because
True.
currently, they are pretend and like they would stop asking for overclocks. It's just equipment is so fucking half-mast. I was gonna say arsed, but they're not half-arsed. They're just like they're not guns, but they're not grenades either.
I do think the upgrades just and the mod selections for everything except from the weapons is in like a really weird place where they just don't
Yeah,
quite make sense.
Most of this
Some of
carries
them
over
could
to
be
the,
jacked up. I think the armor's okay, except the unique mods, which I think they should have more of, right? And then also I think the pickaxes should have a little bit more. Well, I want those to have class specific mods as well, like the armors. But the tools are the ones that really are the sore in this case. Like pickaxes, arguably much more so should just not have any upgrades, right? Because it's like so static. Like one of them's just add the power attack, the other's just which kind you want. Just find a middle ground and just have them always have the power attack, basically. But the tools they really do need to like decide on doing either one. They need to either really flesh out the mods or do something completely different, which is just get rid of them and make them like even more static, but then possibly add more options for tools. So that's what I think they should do. Honestly, instead of a platform gun, maybe make an actual net launcher. Make like a net gun.
Well, I mean, I threw some together at some point. It would be like a molly with a platform on top that would like raise up and down or some shit.
Well, I thought it to be a straight up molly, and it would walk up walls and it position the platform so it's like a right for you to stand on.
Yeah, like you can do it like that as well. Yeah, and but you'd also like be able to just like raise it like I don't know, like a fire truck like lift, where you would just like be able to go straight up in like an open room, and mine something on the ceiling.
Also, just they haven't. I want to see what they can do, but in making new tools as well. Considering how well they do with weapons, I think it'd be really fucking interesting.
Again, I mean, we both think that people want a new dwarf because they want more like new mobility and utility, right? That's it. If they want more guns, they'll just get more guns for the normal class. They don't give a shit about any of the other stuff. It is literally all they want is new mobility and new utility, and that's why people keep asking for a new class.
It's far more sacred to them than it is to any player, basically.
Yeah, they put it on a pedestal that they think we are putting it on, but they're putting it on it, and it's just literally like I don't think I've ever heard a player say that I want to know what that person is running. Right? I don't think I've ever heard any player say that. I've just heard the devs say that they want players to say that.
Yeah. That's a worthy rant though, because it's something that we believe in. So it'd be nice if they got around to it.
I don't think they'll ever naturally get around to it on their own. They need to be confronted with the fact that they're wrong first.
I guess this is going to sound really odd, but I guess they're just going to wait and see what equipment they tackle after perks, basically. Because season 4 doesn't seem to be the main focus unless they've done something interesting. It's either just going to be very minimal, or they've sort of introduced something quite new. But it doesn't mean they've done a lot with it. I just mean they might have introduced a new type of thing. We're not actually 100% sure what they're doing, but it's definitely not this. And that's fine, but we definitely know they have bigger plans for certain things like perks, which I do think will probably be a season 5 thing. But it's just like, what's it going to be after that, right? And that's the quest. That's where this kind of thing can get answered. And that's what I almost don't like about part of season 4 so far, is that obviously we don't know everything, but it sort of feels like they're avoiding some of the things that they could be doing with equipment. And I just don't. We know that's not going to carry on because we know they want to look at perks, but then it's just like, after that, what's it going to be, guys? And then we have to wait, I guess. I just wish they talked about this stuff a bit more often. I want to talk to them about it. That might help. Anyway, maybe some good news would help. And I mean that because this is good news. Which is a suggestion for just general weapon overclock rebalance for season 4. Don't expect a full round of tweaks, which is fair. Like I said, we're getting close to a balanced plateau. But the Sparta is getting some attention for season 4.
Yeah,
That's what it says.
can't read what it says.
Yeah, well, that's what it says.
All right.
It says the Sparta is getting some attention for season 4.
So
They mentioned the Sparta specifically.
that can definitely be read as it's going to be getting the GK and Size Pub treatment, right?
I think that's exactly what it
that
means.
They're looking at thinking it's the weakest and that they're going to pay some serious attention to it. So I think it's slightly interesting because obviously they gave it a tiny bit last season, and I guess they realized that was nowhere close to enough.
Oh yeah, yeah. And it's sort of I feel like it's been a bit like that before, maybe. As in, I feel like I would need to look into this, but I can't really be bothered. I mean, something like the GK2, it might have gotten like a small buff like the one before, and then they actually they realised that still wasn't enough, and they went all the way next season. Either way, I just think this is good because I feel like that is exactly what this means. The fact that they mentioned it specifically. So we can expect that season 4. As essentially news, but you know, can't really put it in a news video.
My hype has now gone up like 10%.
10. Whoa. Yeah.
Well, it's just about their attention. I mean, it fucking needs it. Hopefully, it's a complete rework, but I doubt it. But you know,
Well, overhaul is like what you could describe the GK2 situation as. I mean, I reckon it justifies both, as in they could fix it with an overhaul potentially. You'll just have to see. They'll have to prove that to you that it doesn't. You know, I'm not saying it wouldn't benefit from a complete rework, but just an overall facelift could still be enough. It's just to wait and see what they actually do with it. So that's fine. There's cosmetics for tools again, but this is a more recent response. So they say totally possible. They haven't got around to setting that as a priority. Apparently, other stuff is more important.
I think they push it off for so much that I think other stuff is slightly more important. If you know what I mean. They've swiped away cosmetics for tools so many times that I'm not surprised they're just going to swipe it away again. I mean, like, basically anything that isn't that they prefer doing at this point.
Yeah, yeah.
They want to do it. It's just that anything they want to do slightly more or just equally, but they would still prefer that over there.
Yeah,
I don't see why they can't be slowly working on it on the side though.
Because I think they just put it all into the next thing. I don't think they do anything like that. I don't think they work on things like over time. It's gonna.
They're not like how cosmetics for tools. Like they would have to figure out that frameworks or is that just skins? And if it is skins, is it just going to be the same skins as guns? Are they going to get their own skins? What box is it going to be in? Like, is it going to be paired with armor maybe for drills? So there's an argument for it to do that. Like stuff like that. That can just be talk level now, right? Work out some of the messier details. So when they do decide to do it, they spend less time doing that and more time doing it. They can probably do some of that stuff earlier. Maybe, although they do like to probably focus on all of it now, but yeah, there's much talking at this point because they basically talked about everything this season. I would imagine, like, they kind of know what they're doing because it's all been made now, like most of it, as I imagine.
Well, it's like it's starting to sound a bit more like that is, but honestly, it's what I'd want is them for a season to be dedicated to tools, or actually, you know, you got like season 1 and 2 it goes like primary and then secondary weapons. I want them to do like 2 seasons in a row where it's like one of them is completely dedicated to fleshing out the traversal tools and adding that includes cosmetics, and then they do that for support tools the next season. That would be perfect, like, you know, fodder for that to directing their efforts in like for equipment, you know. And they sort of just treat it like, you know, primary secondary weapons. Or like, you know, primary secondary tools is a traversal and support tool, and one of them gets all the attention in one season and the next season to support tools. I think that would be like a really good pipeline for working on those things, and they would sort of do it that way. I think that would be perfect. As in, I almost don't really want them to do just cosmetics for tools unless they're going to do a lot with tools, and that's going to be like a major focus for a season. So I hope they're saving it for that. That'd be lovely. A seen all button for new cosmetics. Some among devs think it should be a thing, but as long as the game director's against it, it's unlikely to happen. What does Mikkel have against it?
Well, Mikkel's probably like, look at the cosmetic, right? Like, you've earned it, go look at it. Then you'll like consider it.
I guess though, maybe that's
how I see it. That well, at least now I know they would see it, because with the overclocks, they're quite like that, right? Like, they like giving you random fucking overclocks so you actually use it, right? Like, if you always just got the overclocks you wanted, then you'd get all them immediately and you wouldn't give any of the others a try, really. Same with like the characters. If they only gave you your characters overclocks, you wouldn't try other characters. They kind of, even though you would eventually, they want you to encourage doing it like constantly. I think seeing all, or like the things as a flash, is like, hey, look at this thing you got on this character, and they don't really want you to skip that, essentially. Which I think, that's the thing that I'm not surprised players don't like. I don't like it most of the time, especially when you get like a big burst of seasonal.
It doesn't bother me the slightest. It doesn't. It's just red. It's just red exclamation marks. Like, I don't know if that's just me, but like, it doesn't matter. It can't be that annoying.
Even for a little bit, but once I notice, I'll probably get rid of all of them.
Yeah, it just can't be that annoying, you know. And I guess the weird thing is like, is that really something that like is enough effort where it's not like, oh yeah, sure, why not? Like, it feels like there's nothing that they can just why not to, and maybe that's just the way that they are and the way the game is, that they can't just do anything really nonchalantly, basically. You can't just be like, oh yeah, sure, we'll just do that, because it's like, no effort at all.
It's just Mikkel that decides that.
There is also Mikkel just deciding against it, which I guess means it could actually be very easy to do, but Mikkel's just like, no.
All we need to do, Harry, is we need to interview Mikkel directly and get him to come to our... start agreeing with us, because if we interview anyone else, then Mikkel might just say no, so we have to get to the source here.
Well, obviously, or the guy who does this, because I'm more interested in that now. Obviously that fell through. He contacted us, but try again. Try again, bro, because we'd love to talk to you.
Well, he did put his thing in the comments. It's on us to approach him.
Shit. Okay, let's not do that then. Let's not do that. Okay, so this is kind of like wave defense again, but obviously it's a much more recent response. End of survival mission. Unlikely. Point extraction is that, but without the rewards for staying long. That's true. I guess maybe they just don't like the idea that you would just be inherently rewarded just because you've like spent a really long time doing something. I don't know. What? Anyway, I feel like the people who kind of want that is actually sort of to be like a competitive thing, right? It's like not really reward, not even like reward. Doesn't even need to be reward based at all. It could be like this separate thing, maybe in the deep dive terminal,
like on maybe the deep dive menu or like terminal over there. It would be like a dwarven based thing, right? It's like what they managed to somehow get management to sign off on it by like promising to do like free overtime or some shit like that, or something along those lines. And they just created their own tournament terminal place where they would basically, for sport, go down on Hoxies and see how long they can survive. And like it would be like there's some Morkite in the cave, but it would be like every round you complete, it would give you like a spurt of Morkite. So you never really run out of ammo except like near the end, because it would give you like less and less Morkite, Nitro, and like shit like that. Like I could see that, but it would have to be clearly something that management doesn't want you doing, really, right? So it's either that or it's like part of an arcade machine, right? It's essentially a simulation. It would have to be something,
and that would also make more sense for like a leaderboards thing. I feel like people. I guess this is another case of like asking the right question, as in but to be fair, we don't know the exact wording of the original thing. The way I would do it, I would say, I'll bring up the idea of like a completely new game mode, which would be just like sort of competitive, how long can you last type thing, and it wouldn't involve actual credit rewards at all. I don't think it could, up to a certain point, but it would be almost entirely focused around trying to survive for as long as possible, and that would just be the
I
reward.
think,
People like survival modes, and they don't have any external benefit most of the time. Zombies is like just completely contained, for example. People like that shit, and when you put that in a game that's already surrounded by so much other stuff, it's like it doesn't need to.
and it's
It
like,
has. It basically has the framework there as well. Is what I mean. I think it's a really solid idea.
it's I don't know. Yeah, I think they kind of slightly against it. Maybe because it wouldn't fit in like lore wise as well.
Well, I
Right?
also
Like,
mean, to be
doesn't
fair, it
feel,
doesn't fit in as normal mission type either, right? That
no,
is
not at
true.
all.
Yeah, but
It is not a mission type. I think
no.
that would be a very important classification. Um, it is its own thing, and it is like it needs to somehow be added to the game in a way where both Ghost Ship and the players kind of recognize that this is just um for the players, right? This is just a mode that is there to be fun, and not actually really part of the game.
At the same time, it
Essentially.
doesn't sound that hard to do, and yet that's significant enough. That's like a whole like new section of the game. That could easily be a season, like a whole
Honestly,
season.
first of all,
You know?
the actual, because like this is a thing with Halo, right? Where the Halo community is held up by tons of pillars of people that really like different parts of the game. And Deep Rock has that kind of already. You've got like the hardcore speedrunners and just normal missions. You've got the speedrunners of deep dives, or your general just deep dive players. That post videos on YouTube. You've got, I don't know, build makers, stuff like that, right? People with those pillars. This would be a pretty strong pillar, wouldn't it? People that just are constantly scraping and fighting on the trying, see how long they can last. Plus, I think Ghost Ship could get some very valuable info from it, depending on what they set it as. Um, if they can keep an eye on what builds and like obviously what characters people are playing, and the best ones are like all the same, there is never such an obvious thing to say, okay, this is what we should nerf, essentially, or bottom feeders, what we should buff.
Yeah, it is just a
Like that
genuine.
kind of
It's
thing.
just a genuine idea, and I feel like the way I explained it should be quite attractive to them, right? I don't think it would be an insane amount of effort, right? And even if it was, I think if you wanted to focus a season around this could almost replace. This could be in place of the gameplay. This could be like the entire thing, pretty much. This could be like an entire season, basically. I guess you would probably want to get a couple of events in there, in mission events. And I don't know what those would be, but either
I
way,
would
it's just
genuinely.
big enough, and also this is like marketing. This is like the best thing. It'd be so easy to market as well. It's like
Could be a marketing
people's
gold
getting
mine,
like a
especially
exactly. I mean,
since,
gold mine, but that's what I mean. Yeah,
yeah, especially since, and I think this would cement it. Mission Control would not be the character that talks to you in it. Would not be Mission Control. I think that's how separate it has to be. It is like a Scale Brigade member.
it's like those
is like,
Borderlands things. Like I can't remember what they're called. But there's that one you go to in like the nature reserve or whatever. That guy who's just like running this like ring where you fight, like you kill like the animals or whatever, and he's just like clearly not supposed to be doing it, and he's just like running this
much, yeah.
like tournament like out out of the sight of the law. He's just running this tournament.
Yeah, it would be like a Scale Brigade, like I don't know, Arena of Honor type place. And yeah, they would essentially hijack the drop pod, and like just take you down to like the parts of Hoxie's that they have conquered for themselves, or like have like paid, like management, the higher ups, enough whatever currency credits to kind of claim those areas so they can do that kind of thing for. Like,
Unfortunately, we have hidden this brilliant pitch behind flaming them like quite violently.
You know how we do. We'll do this now, and we're definitely going to bring it up again at some other point in time. Maybe make a video on it down the line.
I feel like weird that we haven't made a video on this yet, actually, in some capacity, because we've suggested something very close to this before, and
yeah, I mean, we both think that like as much as this game doesn't want people to be competitive, Us.
It's the perfect kind of
People are
competitivity
competitive.
for it as well. I guess the awkward part is how does it work in terms of teams? I guess the easiest way to do it would just be you would have
Solo, duo, trio, quad.
well
There's different
well I
categories.
was thinking you could even just do it in two because the game doesn't inherently get easier the more people you have. You could sort of just do it solo and also team. It could just be those two. Really, I feel like.
Maybe, but I don't know. I don't see why you wouldn't want like just 3, 4 different categories. I don't see why that's any worse or better.
Yeah.
Then there would be like 4 leaderboards, and you can kind of aim for
Also,
whichever one you
not a
want.
bad way to remove and then reintroduce the unions. Actually, if you wanted to use them, and you could sort of actually just you could actually be doing it for your. I don't know, maybe. Either way,
I don't know, because you wouldn't want unions wouldn't be involved here. I don't think. I genuinely, I think it needs to be its own category of essentially dwarves have taken over a part of DRG.
and that's
As the
just a
company.
great theme as well.
They have actually like claimed a foothold, and they're using that to basically just do a honor based sport. Like they're like, instead of trying to like I don't know, benefit the dwarves as a whole, they're just doing it so they can fight more creatures in Hoxies for fun and like watch it and shit. And it's like Scale Brigade that's running the whole thing, and you would get like a head of Scale Brigade talking to you essentially, like introducing you to it and shit like that. That is an idea. And why I think they need to escape the if it's not a mission or it has to be a mission, it doesn't. It really doesn't. And yeah, because
Or or it has to be a warning or something. They need to
like,
expand their systems in some ways.
Yeah, the game is done. You don't need to keep adding missions. You probably should in the long run, but not everything has to be it. And I think you could get, because they can't see a way where they would add this type of game to make sense and be a good addition to the normal gameplay loop. So take it out of the normal gameplay loop. Have it just be its own part of the game. That's not a bad thing. Lots of other games do it. Like essentially Forge on Halo, right? Like a lot of people would play Halo and not make Forge maps, but that is a part of the game that's just there, right? And so it's not something that games shouldn't do. If anything, you kind of should just give those types of people an area for themselves. And plus, if they make it really hard, the longer you play it for, then for the people that want harder difficulties, there it is in the base game. Harder difficulties. It starts at has 1, probably moves on pretty quickly if it does though. And gets all the way up to has 7 times 4 or some shit essentially.
Yeah.
With barely any nitrous shit like that. And that would be what those kind of players would play, and they would be competing with each other in the leaderboard, and I'm sure they would have a fucking whale of a time, given that the game mode isn't too boring, because it could it'd have to be cave dependent. Because I feel like mentally
it would be maybe it would be, I don't know how they would handle that side of things. I don't know if it'd be like a monthly or a weekly seed, because I can see I can see this bringing in the deep dives as well, because obviously I feel like Deep Rock, when it comes to the actual gameplay, I do kind of feel like it doesn't have another pillar to stand on. But only because the actual main gameplay has got so many smaller pillars to stand on. It's just all the different things you can do. But I mean, an entirely major other section. Deep dives are like the springboard for that almost. But then you would have this as well, and then maybe you would also introduce the deep dive time leaderboards. Like that's the speed running thing. But then you would also have the survival thing. And you could have a normal version and an elite version of the Endless mode too. You could sort of have it match deep dives, except just be the inverse. One's for speed running, one's for surviving. You could also do that if you wanted, and that would make deep dives better too. So, in not in a huge way, but for those people, it would at least sanction the speed running.
And plus, this game mode, you wouldn't just have to see how long you can survive. You have to survive, right? That's an important thing as well. that would separate it slightly. Because well, they actually changed it, didn't they? In like Cold War, in zombies, you would just see how long you go until you die. Because it's deep rock, you should also have to escape, so you need to keep that in mind. But yeah, I think this is a pretty cool idea. Not anything they should add anytime soon, to be honest with you. Like I genuinely wouldn't want them seeing adding it anytime soon.
Why? Don't mind me asking.
Because I don't know, it's just not really anywhere close to a top priority. Game doesn't need something like that right now. But I would argue that when they've got everything, perks are all up to date. We've got all the game modes are looking good. We've got a good amount of biomes. Everything's just really solid. Something like this would be very welcomed. But right now, not everything's really solid. And I think we could, we'd do a biome, shit like that, right? Like, wouldn't hurt.
We really only do in that department. We really only do a biome, and I feel like we do perks being adjusted. We do a biome, but then it's like, what else is like really due?
Revamp some of the game modes. Checking out. They're just us generally.
So, I mean, that's an entirely different discussion, though. Just finish this. Adding a pickaxe to the Dark Future DLC, obviously it's quite a small thing, but they said they probably will be adding new items to old DLC packs now, which is kind of weird because take all the frameworks, like a framework DLC, any new weapons that get added get those frameworks as well. But that's kind of like obligational, right? And also, I feel like the reason why this is the case, right? So basically, Bosco gets a Dark Future skin, but doesn't get a Megacorp one. The Pickaxe gets a Megacorp skin, but doesn't get a Dark Future one. And I feel like that's just because they did those DLCs at the exact same time, and they just chose one for each. They didn't do both for both, basically. And they're just not going to go back either, which is fine. It's not like crazy important, that the Mega. It would be very easy.
Like it.
Yeah, they could do that as well. I mean, but the Megacorp's pretty close to just like a dark pickaxe skin anyway. And then Bosco isn't also. Well, they didn't ask about Bosco, but that's not important. Anyway, cat ears. A prototype was made as far back as season 1, but don't hold your breath. Thank God they're not adding cat ears. Thank God.
They are gonna add cat ears.
Shit, you're right. No, they're not. Aren't they? Like, they don't want to do any of that stuff, do they? Well, they added the bunny ears. They can do cat ears. Make them paid for. Do you know how much money the cat ears made free for free?
All the money. All the money they ever got from Halo Infinite was from the cat ears.
James doesn't even play that game. He just immediately went in and bought the cat ears.
Like, loaded it up for like the first time in like probably 4 months since he like installed it. Bought the cat ears, played it like two games with us. Never loaded it up again since. And that's the exact type of people that bought the cat ears on fucking Halo. Have you even seen many people with cat ears, Harry?
No.
Oh.
Because they're not Halo players. Because they're not.
Yeah.
Anyway. Add coal. They usually decide what the resource is gameplay purposes first, and then decide what resource is in fiction. Don't know what that response really means. All I know is that the only actual real-world mineral we have is gold, and that's the only one it should be, as far as I'm concerned. I think it really should stay that way. Coal is like the only other one, though. Honestly,
is coal.
What? Nitra. I think Morkite is. I think Nitra's something else. Like Morkite is like fuel. I think. Like an oil replacement, basically. Obviously, we do kind of have oil as well, but that's why they want liquid Morkite. I think Morkite's just like cheap fuel, basically, and that's why they like it so much. Yeah, coal, sure, why not? But no, actually, Overclocked that disables Lock 1 targeting. Probably not. They consider the target system to be pretty central to the weapon's design. Yeah, no shit. What about the Hurricane's guiding system, though?
Not that, apparently.
No, apparently not. I still want one that is based on the hip, like uses the hip fire more than the target, like the lock-on effect. Absolutely. New weapons. Well, actually, hold on. I don't need to touch that one. I think I just couldn't be bothered to cut it out. Because I just used the snip tool to take the stuff from the page, and I think that was just sandwiched in between. Okay, this is a bit weird. A system to build new guns from minerals. Sounds expensive and totally not what they're doing with weapons. Yeah, it doesn't really. Don't really know what the implication there is. That's either I don't know. Honestly, the only way I can actually read that is someone who just really just doesn't understand the way people's weapons work at all. It's just like
Has never played the game.
pretty much, or they haven't got. They certainly haven't got any new weapons. Like they're just at the very start or something. Animated pickaxe parts sounds cool. Possible in theory, but they might now have the system to support it. Might possibly supposed to say might not have the systems to support it. Depends on what you also kind of want by that. I feel like there's already ones in there that should kind of be that, or they would be.
Depends.
Like the saw blade one that should be spinning, you know?
Maybe, but like when you're swinging the pickaxe, right? It depending on what they mean by animations. Because I think if you just have like a gyro thing doing things at the back of your pickaxe, that won't really do much.
It's really dumb, isn't it? That is kind of dumb.
But if it means like maybe there's a pickaxe pick that like pulsates when you hit, or like shoots something out, or like just I don't know, like just like it has like an added effect to it whenever you impact stuff. That might be alright.
Yeah,
it depends if it's like pointless noise or impact reinforcing for animations. I think that's how I see it.
Like an extra sort of little thing that sort of I don't know, like slings itself forward along the pickaxe blade, like into the rock, and then comes back. Yeah, okay, it's not actually that great of a suggestion then, in that case. Barrel armor. Oh boy, bring that back, are we? Oh, we're not actually. Robert threw it together in half an hour 7 years ago. And people are still asking for it. He could look into it again at some point. I don't know how to feel about barrel armor. I feel like they just don't know whether they think it should be in the game or not. They know that it's kind of just a joke, but they don't know whether that means it should be in the game or not. I feel like they did like the Bosco barrel thing, just as a joke almost too.
Armor set, I wouldn't blame them for hesitating, but as far as like a hat or helmet goes, there's no harm in adding it as like and maybe like if they were to do an April Fool's thing, maybe throw in a barrel helmet, right? Something like that.
Yeah,
or some shit along those. Right, just throw in a barrel helmet that might satiate the horde a little bit.
It's also not like it's huge demand, but I still think it'd be really funny though. And it's just the fact that they did make it at one point, be pretty cool to bring it back. Like, I guess the case is they probably don't see it worthy of DLC, and they just haven't done armor that's not DLC in a long ass time, except the elf costume, which is arguably the best way to do barrel. That's not a bad way to do barrel armor.
Maybe, or the reward for like level 5,000 or some shit, right?
It would be almost a legacy feature too. They would put it in exactly as it was. It doesn't look like the current barrels either. They just put it in exactly as it was, and you just see people running around with this really weird, kind of shitty looking barrel armor. Like, who the fuck? What? Who's this?
Well, because actually, I mean, realistically, everyone that would have that is cheating. Until some legendary sod would like reach it and just get that armor naturally, right?
Yeah,
and you'll be running around in probably the worst looking armor in the game, and it is the rarest, most special thing ever.
That almost feels like the only way they would add something like that. If it's not actually that cool, if
it's not cool. No one is ever gonna get it, so they don't have to worry about it. Like, I don't know, being shitty all the time, constantly, like everywhere. And yeah, they just kind of maybe not shadow drop it, but just kind of casually slip it into like patch notes. It's like, oh yeah, barrel armor.
It's just that if I find out about it, I would pay to get it.
The only issue is that whenever I think about goofy ass high level that they would add something to, it's 1,000, which would be really sad for you and quite a few other people. In that, you know, a goofily high number is something you passed a while ago. So you got to go for even goofier. That's like 5-10k. But that's like stupid goofy at that point.
Yeah.
So yeah. All
right, let's go out on a bang. Let's go out on a bang.
Clearly, that is not what this is going to be.
Add voice lines to Drac gunsling animation. They probably just missed it. I don't even know what gunsling animations do have voice lines.
Hurricane.
Yeah, that's it. What is that voice line? So, or like when he touches like the plasma in the breach cutter, I guess.
Ow.
Either way, I shut up. Why is that someone's concern? Why are they really asking that?
I'm going to segue this into a light rant.
Go on, it's fine. You can do that.
Need to redo all of them, not all of them. Gen 2 and below.
I just think there shouldn't be any repeats.
Yeah.
I think some of them fine. Honestly, you know, like Sabata, for example, is actually a pretty good one where he like, spins it around like a fucking Beyblade. That's not bad.
Yeah, but then he does it with the stubby. Then they do it with
Like the stubby should like take like the electric thing out and like he should like shock himself with it and like, and then put it back in or something like that.
Just something along those lines. Actual interactive, funny, cool ones. It needs to be added to the other ones.
Cock the shotgun,
revolver, and the Burt. They're just spinning around.
Oh no, the Burt is one where he throws it up and it like comes back in his hand, and that's fine. But the EPC has that as well, so one of them needs to change.
EPC clearly it should be something like Plasma where he touches something he shouldn't and gets like thingy. But even then, that would be like a copy. Quite a few things would do that.
I mean, the Bulldog sort of fits like the spinning around one thing better, right?
The Bulldog one, he should just do like a quick draw, really, right?
It's like he should like simulate quick draw. He should like put it. He should like put it up like bang,
and then like goes wow 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 wow, and then like fix it up.
Perfect. Yeah,
and like people will actually like time it right to where they can shoot things while they do it, and that would be really cool.
And he sort of like I don't know, like the Warthog, which should be like you should just cock it because it's the same as the GK2, the M1000, and the boomstick.
They all just spin it around, and they
right.
Like,
so the boomstick should probably I don't know what maybe should like look down the barrel or something like poke it. You know how they poke inside the barrel like, to the stuff they should do that. M1000 could be pretty simple. We might just like
balance it on his fingers. I think
balances the whole M1000. Jesus Christ. Sure, why not?
The thing is that normally
no. You know how like that video of like the soldier like inspecting his rifle and he's sort of like flipping it around in his hands.
It's like could do that because luckily it's kind of a precedent that other players can't do that animation, right? Like it's just you, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you don't really have to worry about that part of it because, to be honest, no one is fine. Whatever. Like to be honest, like no one really cares. It's all about what you see.
Yeah. What's the other? Well, technically the cryo cannons one is shared actually with the platform gun, and they just throw it up a little bit. They just throw it up a little bit. Like honestly, I'd rather the platform gun at least like swap it to like the sludge pumps one or something because it's like a cement mixer. But the cryo cannon, I don't know what you should do. Maybe you should put his hand in it, and his hand should come out as frozen. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Easy.
And then like you'd have to like smash his hand open.
Oh right, the PGL's the same one as the Warthog and the other guys as well, the GK2.
Like those honestly, I think it's currently a bit of an oversight. I think if they thought about it, they would do it. Which is why I mean, if anything, I would posit to them in a dev stream. It would probably be that because I'd like to see them try and deny it. Because they know, I think they see the appeal in having a cool reload animation, right? Well, maybe not cool. It's often them doing something stupid. You don't see the crossbow one often, but I like the crossbow one. He's like twang it.
I always forget what the wave cookers one is. It doesn't really matter.
He just start. Oh, I don't remember. I know the Shard Diffractor one feels quite nice. Like you kind of feel him like, almost breaking.
It's kind of it's a bit weird, isn't it? That's fun. Well, I'm not too worried. That's at least like that's unique. So it just needs to be unique. All of them. That's all that really matters. I think. And it's definitely worth doing. Kind of, maybe. That's the kind of thing that would just be in the.
Not worth not doing.
No, it's just kind of in the slots, like adding more cave shapes, stuff like that. You know,
all new voice lines when they did shit tons of them. It's just brings old stuff back. You know what I mean? Like, it's another reason why, yeah, those old Gen 1, Gen 2 weapons are kind of dated because they've got really bad reload animations.
Gunsling animations, Tyler. Gunsling animations.
And that, yeah.
I mean, not that you couldn't use a different word. I just don't use reload because that's obviously is a thing. Because obviously, and that's another. That's something else. Any other word, basically.
Because
and I wouldn't call you up on it. Wasn't
it might be.
Even idle, even though it's not idle, obviously, because you have to do it. But even idle would be like that's a fine way to refer to it, I think. What like other ones actually have like, other tools? Because I said the platform gun, the cryo cannon are the same. Sentry guns don't have one. Zipline launcher is actually the same as the GK2. Shield obviously doesn't have one. Flare gun is also the same, where you do the same thing. The grappling hook is the Burt one. That's the best. But hold on, that's interesting actually, because obviously the Burt and the EPC are both from Gen 2, but obviously the grappling hook predated them. They just reused the grappling hooks one. Actually.
Yeah, it was like
drills. Obviously, you've got it right. We forget about the drills. It shows that they care about the drills. You know?
Yeah. It's small pistol. If it's small and thin, you spin it in your hand. If it's small and fat, you throw it up in the air, do a loop-de-loop. If it's long and like kind of, if it's an actual gun, but not too big, you just throw it up and spin it. And then even if it's apparently really big, if they can't be asked and can't think of anything, you just throw it slightly. But then for the other ones, they actually thought of things. Like, the minigun, you like rev the thing. What are the Thunderhead one?
One's where he takes the bullet out and balances on his hand.
Yeah, that one. So clearly, when they were forced to, because it was too big for them to just throw the gun around, they came up with something more interesting. But yeah,
and obviously all the new weapons had unique ones, so it's clearly something they paid attention to. When they made the new weapons.
Oh, flamethrower one spinning is
yeah, but it's at least like not like repeated. That's all that matters.
It's pretty close to the Thunderhead, though.
It's not like insane. But I would prioritize the ones that are repeated.
Obviously. But I think that is somehow us managing to actually pull something from that final one. So we did go out with a bang. People watching.
Let's go out with a bigger bang by blowing up London.
Don't say that.
You're actually not allowed to say things like that.
Probably not. They don't really get jokes online, do they? Many people have been.
All right, in Minecraft then, okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this went exactly how I expected it to. Obviously, it's not like there was a small amount here. It's actually kind of more than I thought, but a lot less than there could have been, and we still managed to like. Well, this is how it's supposed to go. I feel like.
5 rods. What?
Yeah, that's great. That's what we want. All right. If you enjoyed this, please make sure to like, subscribe, and
Love Ghost Ship.
What?
Be sure to love Ghost Ship.
Yeah, but not unconditionally though.
No, but remember, no matter what we say or what they do, they deserve your love, but they also deserve your criticism.
Yep.
So criticize them with love.
I love you, Ghost Ship, and that's why you're bad. Wait, what? I don't understand. I don't understand. I don't understand the prompt.
Get it. He'll get it in the end. He's got the spirit.
I've got the spurt. All right. Take care, guys. Mwah.